Let's rewind 1.5 centuries back in time. The year 1871, one of the most important events of this year is the unification of Germany. Following the victories in the Austro-Prussian War, the Franco-Prussian War, and the war with Denmark, from now on, Germany is officially united, and the newly formed German Empire emerged on the political map of Europe. At this point of time, Germany possesses the strongest military on the continent, but the main purpose and main priority for German government is to secure its geopolitical position as well as to eliminate all the potential threats to its existence. This is the cornerstone of foreign policy of the German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck. He strived to create an alliance with different European powers that would, first of all, guarantee security of the German Empire and would help to maintain the balance of power in the region. And today, we will try to figure out if he managed to accomplish this purpose. The main threat that Bismarck considered was from the west. The defeated France could not forget the loss of Alsace-Lorraine, and a potential attack from this country posed a potential but significant threat to the German Chancellor. Therefore, isolating France was one of his biggest aims. The most adverse scenario for Germany was the prospect of waging war on two fronts, so beside France it was vital for the Chancellor to secure peaceful coexistence with the eastern neighbor, the Russian Empire. In 1873, Bismarck negotiated the Three Emperors League, which included Franz Joseph I of Austria, Alexander II of Russia, and Wilhelm I of Germany as its members. The monarchs were intended to maintain stability in Eastern Europe and refrain from resolving issues through military means. However, the subsequent Russo-Turkish War and the hostile position of the German Empire towards Russia during the Berlin Conference in 1878 led to the termination of the Three Emperors League. But as we know, history is absolutely unpredictable, which is why the league was reconstructed in 1881. The important provisions of the document that we need to bear in mind. Article 1. If one of the contracting parties goes to war with the fourth great power, the other two will remain neutral and work to contain the conflict. Article 2. Russia, in agreement with Germany, pledges to respect Austro-Hungary's interests as defined by the Treaty of Berlin. They also promise to consider each other's interests in the Balkans and agree that any changes to Turkish territory in Europe require mutual agreement. Article 3. The three courts affirm the principle of the closing of the Bosporus and the Dardanelles Straits, as established by international law and confirmed by treaties. Article 4. The treaty will be in force for 3 years from the date of ratification. Besides that, there were also secret protocols signed dividing the sphere of influence of each country in the Balkans, including Bosnia and Herzegovina, the Sanjak of Novi Pazar, Eastern Rumelia, and Bulgaria. The countries obliged to aim to maintain stability, deter aggression, and resolve disputes peacefully. But the League of Free Emperors wasn't quite a solution to Bismarck's dilemma. The problem was that countries had a big number of contradictions across the whole Europe, especially in the Balkan region. So instead, Bismarck favored a solution of creating a dual alliance with Austria. He thought that Russia wouldn't dare to wage a war with both empires at the same time. So the German Empire and the Austrian Empire concluded an agreement. Article 1. If one of the contracting parties was attacked by Russia, the other party was obliged to come to its assistance with their full military strength. Peace would only be concluded together and upon mutual agreement. Article 2. If one party was attacked by another power, the other party pledged not to support the aggressor, but to maintain at least a benevolent neutral attitude towards its ally. However, if the attacking party was supported by Russia, the obligation for mutual assistance would come into effect, and the conduct of the war would be shared until a common peace was achieved. Article 3. The treaty was initially set to last for 5 years, after which the parties would consult on whether the conditions still warranted its continuation or modification. It should be mentioned that the alliance was created less than 15 years after the war with Austria ended. And back then, any ideas of alliance between these both countries were hardly possible to imagine. But in this particular topic, there was nothing but strategical thinking and impartial approach to solving the issue. The fact is, Bismarck perfectly understood that the Austrians had more spiritual, cultural, and historical connections to Germany than any other countries did. That's why, when the outcome of the war was obvious, he decided not to march into Vienna in order not to humiliate the Austrians and leave the room for potential tightening diplomatic ties and perhaps creating an alliance. In 1882, an expansion of the alliance took place. Italy joined the formation. The reasons why Italy decided to join the alliance were quite contradictory. On the one hand, Italians were afraid of French expansionism in northern Africa, especially in Tunisia, which was occupied in 1881 by French troops. So Italy wanted to avoid a potential fight with the French alone. On the other hand, Italy had serious contradictions with the Austro-Hungarian Empire because of territorial disputes and rivalry in the Balkan region. Nevertheless, on May 20, 1882, three states managed to come to an agreement on the following basis. Article 1. The contracting parties promise peace and friendship, agreeing not to form alliances or engagements against each other. They also commit to exchanging ideas on political and economic matters and promise mutual support within their own interests. Article 2. If Italy is attacked by France without provocation, Germany and Austria must provide assistance. The same obligation applies to Italy if Germany is attacked by France. Article 3. If any part is attacked by two or more non-signatory great powers without provocation, all parties are obliged to come to their aid simultaneously. Article 4. If a non-signatory great power threatens the security of one party, the other two must observe benevolent neutrality, but reserve the right to join the war if they see fit. Article 5. If the peace of any party is threatened under the circumstances outlined in the preceding articles, the parties will consult each other on military measures and agree on actions to be taken. For Bismarck, joining Italy would potentially mean that France would be compelled to wage a two-fronts war. However, in the case of a Russian attack, as the above provisions state, Italy wouldn't necessarily be pushed to support Germany or Austria-Hungary. Later, the Triple Alliance would be joined by Romania. However, that wouldn't significantly change the balance of forces on the continent. As we would discover later, not all of the alliance members would participate in the war on the side of Germany and Austria, but that's a different story. When the Three Emperors Treaty expired, Bismarck considered a new agreement with the Russian Empire to be necessary. As a result of such a policy, the Reinsurance Treaty was signed in 1887. Of course, the primary goal of this treaty was to avoid a double-front war, so neutrality with Russia was the cornerstone of this agreement. The Article 1 stipulates that if one of the contracting parties goes to war with the third great power, the other two will remain neutral and work towards localizing the conflict. However, this neutrality does not apply if the war is against Austria or France, resulting from an attack by one of the contracting parties. The Article 2 recognizes Russia's historical rights and influence in the Balkan Peninsula, particularly in Bulgaria and eastern Rumelia. Both parties agree not to allow any modification to the territorial status quo in the region without prior agreement between them. The Article 3 acknowledges the closure of the Straits of the Bosporus and the Dardanelles as an internationally recognized principle. Both parties pledged to ensure Turkey adheres to this principle and will consider any infringement as an act of war against the injured party. The text of this treaty is similar to the 1881 Treaty of the Free Emperors. The two powers assure each other that they will remain neutral in a potential conflict, except in the case of an unprovoked attack by Germany on France or by Russia on Austria-Hungary. Bismarck intended to avoid contradicting his obligations toward his ally, Austria-Hungary. The treaty, however, included a strictly secret protocol which was not revealed until the First World War. The first point. Germany agrees to support Russia in restoring a regular and legal government in Bulgaria and rejects the restoration of the Prince of Battenberg. The second point. Germany pledges benevolent neutrality and diplomatic support to Russia if it needs to defend the entrance of the Black Sea. The third point states that the secret protocol is an integral part of the main treaty. The treaty wasn't destined to be renewed. In 1890, Bismarck was forced to resign, and the leaders of both countries were not interested in extension of the document. After the dismissal of the Iron Chancellor, it became obvious that the system of alliances he created suddenly started to fall apart. And the only question remained is who would strike first.